Greetings and welcome back to CS133 Practical Programming with Python. This is week 2. We're on lesson for loops. Last lesson we did while loops, and that was while it was true, so similar to the statement, while it's true it executes the code that's in that statement. A for loop is more specific and it's really designed to execute X amount of times. So our objective is to understand how this for loop works. Your success criteria is demonstrating creating a for loop that loops 5 times exactly. So let's look at some of this code and we'll look at some examples. So for x in range 1 to 11, 1 comma 11. The x is a variable, the iterator. Think of it much like the while statement. While x is less than 10, and that's why I'm using x, because a lot of times you see when we did that while x is less than 10. But you'll notice that you didn't have to create it, right? There is no x equals 0 up at the top. How the for loop works is when you use the range 1 comma 11, the first digit is where it starts, the second digit is where it goes up to. So in this case, x equals 1, and as long as x is less than 11, it will continue to execute. So when this executes, it will execute 10 times 1 through 10. Right? So x will start at 1, then become 2, and then 3, and then 4, all the way up until 10, because then when it turns to 11, 11 is no longer less than 11. So very similar to the while statement, but also more precise. It's really good for going to one number to another number, or just executing a certain amount of times. I want it to go 8 times, 10 times, so on and so forth. Very specific for that. As I mentioned before, the while loop is more versatile because you can say, while button is not pressed, whereas this is a lot more straightforward, right? I don't need to put x equals thing and then make x go up. The whole concept of this is every single time x goes up by 1. So that is something to think about. When you see it without this, so again, remember I said the first number is where it starts. If it only has one number, its default is 0 to start at. Its default is 0. So again, if you just see for x in range 3, it executes 3 times. But it still has a thing if it only goes up to this. So what's nice about this is whatever number you put in there, that's what number, how many times it executes. However, it goes from 0 up to that number. So x will be 0 the first time it's executed. And that's how it works. Because 0, 1, 2, that's 3 times. However, it doesn't actually ever get to this. And when we go to our later lessons on lists and arrays, as you can kind of see in this, list, or what they call in Python, we'll see that better as we loop through this. We're not going to spend much time on this because we're learning lists later, but we can get the length of it and then loop through the length of it. You'll also see another way, so I'm going to show you this, for x in array, and again you need the name of the array, so whatever happens to be my fruit list, and we'll talk about arrays in a little bit starting next week. But it goes through the value of this. So this is orange, grape, whatever, and you see something like this. X is going to be, if you call it later, I'll show you an example. If you call it later, it'll be each of those elements. So apple, grape, orange, whatever they happen to be. Whereas again, x, when you do x in range, it's going to be a number based on whatever you put in here. So x in range is going to be a number based on whatever you put in here. If you use something like this, and normally the best syntax is like for fruit in fruits, and then it'll be each of the individuals. However, again, when we get to arrays, I'll show you 2 different ways to do this. But let's focus on our for loop. As we remember how it works, has a colon at the end. What's indented inside of it, that's what actually executes, and then you have what's outside of it. So let's look at this. Let's go ahead and make this a little larger. Got rid of error first. All right, so we enter, it automatically indents for us. Let's just go ahead and print I. And I'm doing this because I want you to see what the numbers actually are. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice also, if this was a while statement, it would have broke because it's like, where is I? What is I? I's not going up. Everything we need for the for statement is in that one line. If there's one number, it starts, if it's one number, it starts at 0, and it goes up to, but not including that number. So it executes 5 times, for I in range 5, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, we use I because it sounds for this. I just ran it again. It didn't change anything at all. We use I because you can think of it as the incrementer. This increments every single time. It goes up by 1. It increments. The iterator, it's iteration, 0 iteration, 1 iteration, whatever helps you remember, but I is normally used a lot. You can use anything that you're working with. So let's go and kind of look at this one. Same concept. We're just going to print I. And I want you to think about, as I make this larger, what numbers are going to print off over here. All right, what numbers are going to print off over here? Is that what you suspected? 10 to 14. Again, it starts at this number, but doesn't actually go all the way to this number. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This executes 5 times, and you can use it. And this is good if you actually need to use I, then you're going to put numbers in. And that's normally when you put a number to a number, it's because you're going to use I. So let's do this times 10, right? So if I wanted to get 10 times every number from 10 to 14, I'd run this, and I get every number that's 10 times 10 to 14. That'd be an example. Again, you very specifically want this. I don't want this 0 to 5 because that's not going to give me 10 times 10, 10 times 11. So when you see this, it's normally because, or when you use it, it's normally because of that. All right, this is a rehash. We saw this before. But you can embed, nest, you can nest all this. So this will loop 3 times. While statement needs this creation point. The for statement is everything together. While statement has how can it stop, and then we need the ability to stop. So answer equals input quit question mark, and now we can run this program again. You need to quit 3 times. Okay. Okay, we're still in this while statement right now, which is inside the for statement. So let's type in quit. 2 times left. And again, a good example of using I inside of yours. Had to do a little reverse thing to figure out how to do it. So it starts at 2, minus 0 is 3, minus 1 is 2, minus 2 is 0, and so it's built a little built-in countdown. And quit, sure. Again, we can just keep going for days on this until we actually type in quit. 1 more time left, and let's just quit right away. So we're done. 0 times. We are now out of this. Control Z this. And that is nesting, and it's using both of those. So you can kind of see, I just want this to go 3 times, right? I want to make them quit 3 times, so I use a for loop. However, I want them to actually type quit, so I have to use a while loop. So it's a great example of using both of the things properly. All right, that is the end of this lesson. We're going to do our practice next, and that's about the end of this week. We'll see you next lesson.